Real Nuneaton Driving Test FAIL. See how unlucky this driving test candidate has been. So the recording date of this video is the 11th of September 2020. That's when the candidate is taking their driving test. When you're on your driving test, you're called the candidate, and so I'll refer to the learner driver as the candidate from now on. We've just seen the examiner walk past the front of the car there, so they've checked that all the tyres are in the right place and that there are 4 of them, which thankfully on this day, on this occasion, there is, so the test can continue. The examiner will be explaining to the candidate that they just want them to follow the road ahead unless the sign says otherwise, or if they're asked to turn left and right, which they'll do in good time. Also, they'll be going just through the tell me question here. I don't know which tell me question it was because obviously I'm not in the car. But this video shows us how brutal this test can be in this post-COVID-19 era. So in this era, you know, once you've made a serious fault, then the test becomes a fail, and the examiner then guides you back to the test station. But as you can see, the test has started very nicely. The candidate there has waited for the white car to go through and then moved off very smoothly. And now you have to go round to the right on this bend because there's no other way to go from the Nuneaton Test Centre. And the examiner is going to ask the candidate to pull in and park on the left along this road, which is not unusual under normal circumstances, but today it's slightly different. Candidates pulled in quite nicely there, got themselves next to the curb, and unusually for this road, the examiner will ask the candidate to perform a controlled stop, or as we also know it as an emergency stop. And the candidate will just, the examiner, sorry, will just be saying to stop as though a child has stepped off the road in front of the car. And let's see how the candidate gets on with this. One thing to note will be the speed of the car when the examiner gives the signal. It won't be fast. It won't be a quick speed. It will be a slow speed. And also they won't get down the road very far. So let's just see. 16. So there was 16 miles an hour there when the examiner gave the signal, and so they did the controlled stop. And they've not gone 20 or 30 yards down the road either. 6-point check, and away they go. And everything up to now is going very, very nicely for the candidates, driving very, very well. And the next thing you have to do along this road is turn left. There's no other option. You can't get out of this road in any other way. So that's what happens. And in general terms, what generally happens here along this road is that a candidate is pulled in on the left, as with today, so they can do an angled start. Now, one thing to notice here is how far how nicely controlled this angled start is going to be, how far away from the white car that the examiner gets, that the candidate gets, and how she doesn't take up too much of the road. So that is a very, very, very nice angled start there. So when they get to the end of this road, generally what happens is you're asked to turn right. And this is going to be no exception, turning right into Earls Road. It's a little bit blind, so the candidate has paused for a second, looked both ways before they've crossed the white lines, and so they've continued on, having seen that it's clear. Again, everything is going very nicely. And at this time, on this test route, they're going to be asked to turn left at the end of this road. And again, they've had to pause a little bit because this the road they're turning into is a little bit busier and there are cars coming along. there's one. And also it's a bit blind. So they've moved forward to check again. Now it's very tight as you go around here, and the candidate will be careful not to put the back wheel onto the curb, and you can see that they moved out and then moved back in again in order to do that. So everything here is going very, very, very well. I should say that this candidate, by the way, is a very good driver and would normally pass this test, easily, really. And it's just one of those things. It's just one of those things in life that happens that means that that they're going to fail. And it's really unfortunate because, someone of this standard should just be able to just fly through it. But this wasn't their day, unfortunately. And this is going to be their undoing. It's going to be where they turn left at these traffic lights. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to pause the video just about here, just so I can explain what happens. Normally, every other single time I've been through this junction, and I can tell you there's been a lot, hundreds of times, this light there will bring a green arrow on, a green left turn arrow on. Obviously they're in the left lane at the moment and they're going to be turning left. So this normally comes on first, and there's one on the opposite side of the road there as well, and the green arrow will come on first, and so we move off and go round to the left, no problem at all. I've never seen it where the green arrow didn't come on first, and the candidate will have been through this junction where that has happened as well. But today, because life likes to kick us in the teeth every now and again, let's see what happens. We can see the traffic's moving in front of the car, and the traffic will stop in a few seconds, and there you go. I'm just going to pause that again, and we can see that this time the green light has come on, but there's no green arrow. Now we do know that if the green arrow comes on, you can go, and that's fine, but you don't have to wait for it. If the green light comes on first, and there is a space, which clearly there is here, and it is safe to go, then you can move on and move forward and go round to the left. But because we've been through this junction so many times, and every single time this green arrow has come on, I think what's happened is it's kind of thrown the candidate out a little bit, and they're kind of trying to work out what to do, and we can see what happens next. So they're waiting. The candidate is waiting, and so the lights have changed back to amber. And then red. So now can't go. So they've missed their opportunity to go at the green light. Now when these lights go back to green again, yet again the arrow isn't going to come on, and yet again that will cause a little bit of confusion in the mind of the candidate, and the examiner will say, the green lights come on, you can go. And at that point the test is over, because that's the examiner taking action. They're taking verbal action, but they're taking action, they're giving advice, and once they do that, then that's the end of the test, really. So that's what's happened. We were 6 minutes into the test, really, 6 or 7 minutes in, and so the candidate's made this one error. It's been deemed to be a serious fault, and so the test is a fail. However, in this brutal world of post-COVID-19 where the tests are concerned, the examiner hasn't told the candidate that it's a fail, the test has failed. They've not been informed on that. So the candidate is now still going along, driving very, very well, by the way, as though they're still on the test. They're getting up to the speed of the road. You can see they were up to 28, 27. They've slowed down a little bit for this junction, and then they're going to accelerate again up this hill. So they're doing everything that they need to pass the driving test. In the hope, I think, that was a minor fault and that the test is still up and going. As they come up to this junction where these next lights are, we can see the lorry is braking, and so the candidate is braking as well, slowed right down. They're now being asked to turn left at these traffic lights, and anyone that's local to Nuneaton will know that when you turn left here, you're going back toward where the test centre is. And so the candidate now might have an idea that this isn't where they were expecting to go, and have made that fault at the traffic light, and maybe it's all over. But they've carried on driving as they should do. They're going to turn right here. They've got themselves down into second gear to make this turn, judging by the speed, and they're coming into this 20-mile-an-hour zone. And you'll see as they go all the way along this road, they're not going to get over 20. They're going to stay in that second gear. They're going to make sure that they're within the speed limit. And you know, they're going to carry on again. They're going to keep calm and carry on, basically. Still driving up to the standard, still doing everything they need to do in order to pass the driving test. They're going fairly slow even for a 20 zone here, because there's a big speed bump. You'll see there it is. You can't see, there's no marks on the road, it's just a speed bump in the road. I think the marks have faded, and there's another one just here, but they're quite high ones, these ones, so the candidate is taking it really steady and really easy as they're going over them. And what happens next is they're coming up to a bridge here, and this bridge is quite narrow, and there's only enough room for one car to pass through at a time. So what the candidate is doing here is slowing down, getting into a position where they can see along the bridge, making sure that it's clear. Having seen that it's clear, then they're moving on, moving through. Again, exactly what they need to do to pass the test. They're actually driving very well. And they're going to turn left at the end of this road, and you'll notice here that they wait for a big kind of orange lorry. You'll see it in a few seconds. Here it is, yellow in actual fact, lorry. And as the lorry turns into the road that they're turning out of, they don't automatically think that it's going to be clear there. They pause and then go. So the pause there was the candidate looking again, making sure that it was still clear, still doing everything they need to do, still driving like a complete star, really, to get through their driving test. And they're dealing now with this meeting situation. They're dealing with it very, very well. They're going to give time and space for the silver car to get through, realise that the black car is giving them room now as well, and so they're moving through. They're not being instructed to do this by the examiner. They're just driving as they should do, and as would be befitting someone who's going to pass their driving test. And so they're coming now to the end of they must know by now that the test is over, and they're going to be asked to take the next left. And this road where they're turning left here is this is going back into the road where the test centre is. And so they're turning left. There's going to be someone that crosses the road here in a few seconds. They'll have to just pause for. They've made sure it's clear. And there you go, someone crossing the road, so just slow down enough to let them through, and then they're being asked to pull in and park on the left again. And actually, they've stopped on the left. I'm going to pause it again. And this is where the examiner now is saying to the candidate, unfortunately, today you've not reached the standard. So they don't tell them, or in this case anyway, not told them till right to here. Right to the very end when they've parked up, and they'll be explaining through, saying, you know, green traffic light and all of that business, giving them, saying to them, you know, when they can book again and things. And you'll see if in a few moments the examiner walking down and away from the car along the road there. This is a very, very good driver who's made one mistake near to the start of their test and hasn't managed to get through. And it's a shame really, because that situation would never ever happen normally. It's just life has happened on this day. So that just shows you how brutal that this can be. And I'm just going to pause this video as the examiner walks away there. And that just shows you how brutal this test is now, really, once you've made that first mistake. Not brutal in the fact that there was anything nasty happened, but brutal in the fact that they were just kind of guided back to, they made the mistake, they were just guided back to the test centre and not told until they got to the back to the test centre, and not explained why until they got back here. And I think that's, I don't know whether that's whether that could be done any better, put it that way. Okay, but that's it. Hopefully that's been of some help to some people, and you know, this is a very good driver, and very good drivers don't always pass, unfortunately. Fingers crossed for the next time this candidate goes for the test. I'm sure that they will just fly through it. Cheers, guys.